Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are featuring this rather striking looking piece from the German brand Mühle Glashütte. This is actually their Sportivo compass date. I have reviewed the GMT before and I was quite impressed with that one, to be fair, and it's no exception with this one. I think this is a rather cool, funky looking watch. Obviously we have it on the strap for this review, but it is also a bracelet available. So if you were put off by the strap, you could also go for the bracelet option. Now, the brand themselves, they've been out for well over 100 years. I think they started off in making fine engineering pieces, and then I believe it was clocks and watches. They even modify the movement, which is quite cool, and do in-house regulation, which I really like. But before I get too far into the review, I've got to say a massive thank you to the team over at First Class Watches at Kenilworth for allowing me to review this piece. So many interesting brands like what we have here. So if you're in the Midlands area, I'd strongly recommend popping into their shop. If you're further afield, well, don't worry, because I'll leave a link in the description and at the bottom of the page. Now, all I ask is that you do mention the channel if you contact them. So let's talk sizes. Now, automatically in the specs, well, not in the specs, but the name, it says 42.5, but I can't find that because the bezel is fraction under 42, and if I go off this inside lip of the actual case, and there I'm reading 41.4, so it's a little bit, they are zeroed, yep, so a little bit of a strange one. So all for the better, I think. So let's say it's 41.5, the thickness of the watch is 11.7, the lug to lug is 50 millimeters, and the strap size on this is 22 millimeters. The dial itself is absolutely superb. I love the texture on this dial. It is very, very heavily textured. I'm not sure how they do it, but it looks fantastic. We've got this light blue emanating out to the more darker edges there. We've got applied hour markers. The hands have this beautiful polished section around the edge there, and then full of lume in the middle, as too are the hour markers. Though I have to say, it's not the longest lasting lume, but it is definitely there. One thing I think they missed a trick on would have been to have this blue ring on the outside for the minute marker loomed, as I think it really would have elevated, would have brightened it up no end. The text, as you can see, is on a raised section. So we've got the branding up there, and then we've got the 30 ATM. So that equates to a 300 meter capable diver. But this is where it gets also a bit weird. Oh, one thing I should point out, the date over here in the white with the black numbering possibly would have been better, either dark blue with white numbers on there. I don't know, I'm picky. Or one other thing, I love that second hand. It hasn't got a tail. It looks incredibly unbalanced because of that, but it looks really good nonetheless. So anyway, the actual crystal on this is a flat sapphire crystal with A.R, and it does have a very good level of A.R on here. The bezel, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. Being that it's a 300 meter capable diver, you would suspect it would have a dive bezel, but no, we don't have that. We have a compass bezel on here. Now, if you're wondering how on earth you actually read the compass using a watch, it's actually relatively straightforward. If you're in the northern hemisphere, let's say Mr. Frog over there is where the sun is at the present, we'd point the hour hand to him, and wherever, then you would divide this distance here, and that would equate to south if you're in the northern hemisphere. If you happen to be in the southern hemisphere, that would be true north. But in the northern hemisphere, this would be north, back here completely opposite. So that's one way of working it out. And yes, I once had someone say, but what happens if I'm on the equator, or if it's pitch black? It's getting a bit silly then. But this will actually tell you the compass readings in the light. Do you really need it on a bezel? possibly not. I think it would have been better still to maybe numbered this, and then you could have a little S or, you know, north, south, east on there as well as the numbers, and keep it more as a dive bezel. This is obviously bi-directional, but fair play to them. I still like it nonetheless. This is, I believe, a ceramic insert, and these, I believe they have been recessed as well, so these are recessed in there. It's incredibly easy to purchase. You've got a coin edge going on here. It clicks. Yeah, it's quite nice. Lines up perfectly. Is a back play a real minuscule fraction. It's, you know, it's really good, so no problems. As we come round to the side, we have a satinized finish there. We do have polished edges on the lugs there. One thing to point out, we have not normal spring bars, they are screws here. A little bit more awkward to swap over straps. I would recommend getting the small tool I once shown on how to remove these, as it otherwise you can scratch very easily. But overall, I like it. As we come around to this side, we have very prominent crown guards on this. It is a screw down crown, as you can see there. The crown itself, let's wind that in, see it winds back in first time. We do have a windmill on there. Now, some of you might be thinking, why on earth is there a windmill there? Well, I believe the name Mühle actually is, translated to English, is actually a mill. So there you go, that's why that's on there. As we come round to the back, we are greeted with a nice display case back on there. I do like a display case back. Simple fact is, I like seeing the movement. I put this one on the time grapher, and I believe it was pulling a very, very constant plus 6 seconds. Now remember, that's in the position I have it. So when you rotate it on the wrist, you'll find there's more gravitation, more kind of gravity on the balance, and that will probably even out quite nicely. When it comes to timekeeping, you'll probably get about +3 or so on there. Now, what they do, which is a little bit special, this is a Sellita SW200. So we're talking 26 joules, up to 41 hours of power, and all the normal kind of good stuff there, bidirectional winding and so forth. But they have added what they call their woodpecker regulation arm on there. So if you want to regulate this very, very fine, there's a small screw pointing off there, which is how you'd actually regulate it. The only problem with these is when they're in a case, sometimes they're a little bit hard to get to, but that's how you can fine tune and regulate the watch very well. Some people, say, yeah, you just move the arms on the side, but trust me, when you're trying to dial it down to like 1 or 2 seconds, that small screw is far better. It also, on the bottom of it, the spring arm overlaps the regulating arm, and that gives it a certain amount of shock protection. So they've gone to the extreme of adding that to the movement. This one also featured blued screws, which they have also added. So yeah, overall, they've done a real tidy job of that. I like it. The strap on this, as I say, is also available on a bracelet, but the strap is rather cool. It's actually a fully recycled strap made from plastic bottles out of the ocean, and I think it feels and looks amazing. The only downside with it is, as you can see, it's incredibly breathable and bendable, so it's kind of nice how they've done that. It is signed up here as well. You do have a very nice buckle top here, and one fixed and one floating keeper. But I find when you go to put it on, sometimes the pin kind of gets stuck in between the actual holes there. Don't get me wrong, this is like a real little niggle, but it's just one thing to be aware of. Overall, I think it looks great. Let me put it on my wrist so you got an idea how it looks. Quick wrist check. I'm wearing another German brand. This is Larco, and this is the Atlantic model. And Bob has gone German as well with the rather gorgeous all-black Zinn GSG9 UX, which is a rather cool watch. My wrist size is 7¼ inches. That works out to around about 18.5 centimeters. Just quickly put this on. One thing I should say is the price of this watch. The RRP is 2,300, but realistically, if you speak very, very nicely to first class watches, you're more likely going to get this for around about 1,950, I believe. And I think it's a very compelling watch at that price for sure, because it looks fantastic and it's that little bit different. you know, not everyone's going to know the name immediately, but they'll be impressed when you tell them about it anyway. So I'm going to leave you to it, guys, but most importantly, you stay safe up there, and all the best. Bye.